Game over. It is game over.
Game over, cancer.
I'm Val Solomon, Director of Program Impact at Cannonball Kids Cancer Foundation.
And I'm Dana Nichols, Executive Director of CKC.
Game Over, Cancer, a podcast dedicated to exploring conversations about pediatric cancer research, solutions, and inspiring family stories.
We're a nonprofit dedicated to creating innovative treatment options for kids fighting cancer and educating for change.
By creating a space for these conversations, we empower the community to take action and provide tangible hope.
Game over, cancer. Screw you, cancer. Today's episode is all about how we are stronger together.
That's right.
In fact, we a couple of months ago met someone in town that is like a carbon copy, cut, paste, replace of Cannonball Kids Cancer, but they've been around a little bit longer and have a lot of strength and a lot behind them of how much impact they've had. We are
soulmate organizations.
They are soulmates. Our soulmate that we found one of their employees who lives in Central Florida. And so Beth is with us today. It is so cool when we get to talk to another foundation who's working in the way we are and sees us truly as a collaborator, not competition, and wants to move the needle together.
Right, exactly. It's very affirming to hear somebody else also be very focused on getting resources to researchers just as quickly as we can. And anytime we talk with people who are fundraisers, but also with a personal connection to pediatric cancer, it's always a moving conversation. They are motivated, they're passionate, they're angry. And Beth, I think, takes us on a journey of all the different emotions and drive that a family member who has dedicated their lives to also helping fund research for kids goes through. So it's such a great conversation. We're really happy to have it today.
So take a listen. I think you'll love Beth the way we do, and you'll be ready to eat a cookie at the end of it too. For over 2 decades, Beth and her family have been fervent advocates for childhood cancer research, raising funds to support affected families. Her commitment to the cause is intensely personal. Her firstborn son, Cameron, was diagnosed with a rare liver cancer during a routine 1-year well appointment. This life-altering experience inspired Beth to become a steadfast voice for families navigating similar hardships, continuing her advocacy even after her son's successful recovery. More than 2 decades later, with all this work behind her and in front of her, Beth was again faced with childhood cancer, this time when her 3-year-old grandson, KJ, was diagnosed with AML leukemia in April of 2023. KJ passed away on May 18, 2024, after a brave and tough battle. He was on a clinical trial that extended his life 6 months, but as we all know, no amount of time is ever enough. Beth is now the Community Outreach Manager for Cookies for Kids Cancer, a nonprofit which, just like CKC, funds innovative treatment for kids with cancer. And she's here today to talk with us. We are so excited to welcome Beth Robertson.
Welcome.
Hello.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm super excited to be here and talk about all things of how we can change the face of childhood cancer.
Perfect.
Love it.
Perfect.
And we thought it would be a great way to start our conversation with a little game. If you're game, we'd like to play a game.
Have you noticed we love a bit?
We love a
thing. Well, I think part of it came out of I met you. We met for coffee. I came back to the office and I was like, okay, imagine instead of the word cannonball, the word cookie is there. And I met our soulmate organization. Yeah. And so then this game goes into that.
Yes. So we would like to read parts from either your website or our website, and then you can pick if it's cookies or cannonball.
Oh my goodness gracious.
And there's no points awarded. Everybody's a winner.
Everyone's a winner. They sound the same.
Yeah.
And that means we are supposed to be partners.
Yes. Okay. So first one is we compare ourselves to venture capitalists. We hear about ideas that have promise and provide the seed money to get those projects moving forward as quickly as possible.
That is on our website.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Yes.
Yes.
The second one is our mission is to fund innovative, accessible research for children fighting cancer to provide better treatments and quality of life and to educate for change.
That is on your website.
You're so good. Yes. Okay. 3, our vision is that no family is ever told we have run out of options.
I believe that that's on both of our websites.
I think it might be.
That's actually correct. That was a trick one. And finally, pediatric cancers and adult cancers are different. Standard cancer treatments impact children's bodies differently than adults' bodies. We prioritize funding treatments designed specifically to treat pediatric cancers while minimizing the brutal side effects of standard treatments.
And that would be on your website.
Oh my gosh. That's 4 for 4.
That's 4 for 4.
Wow.
But I think the thing is, I mean, truly, so much of it could
yeah,
come from
yeah.
either one.
It's just worded differently
Yes.
on
Yeah.
our website as
Yeah.
well. So it's
Yes.
Same idea. But isn't that so? Okay, clearly we're very similar organizations. And I think in the nonprofit world, we're like, oh my gosh, we don't want to duplicate. We don't want to do the same thing. How is this organization different from that organization? So we thought maybe you could talk a little bit about, what's behind, the mission of Cookies, but why it's so important to collaborate with CKC and how it's not a problem that we do focus on the same things.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think that too, like we have had in the past years overlapping medical advisory people,
Mhm.
and we have actually funded some of the same scientists, pediatric oncology researchers that get things from lab to bedside as quickly as
Mhm.
possible, which is amazing. But saying that, your medical advisory board is different and they're able to, like the grants that come into you are able to be chosen by them and what they're seeing as most effective right now. And then what we're having is we have 7 partner centers that we really pretty much fund at. And those 7 partner centers all are in the COG Children's
Mhm.
Oncology Group umbrella,
Mhm.
which we're a partner with as well. And saying that, being able to see different things and innovations from these amazing minds that like I couldn't even understand this much of,
Yes.
it doesn't overlap unless 2 of them have worked together and they're like, hey, we are proposing this to this organization and you're proposing this. Like we kind of overlap. Like that's where the collaboration really needs to start, is that conversation between the great minds of the pediatric oncology world coming back to us and saying, hey, like I know such and such and they're submitting a grant. Maybe that conversation between the medical advisory board say, well, we're going to fund this much and we're going to fund this much. But really, it's a collaboration of working together to come to a cure, treatment, resolution, because that's really all we want is the same
Right.
thing as you. Like kids deserve to be kids. Childhood cancer should not be in the mouths of children at all. It shouldn't be in anybody's mouths. So, we can change that by that collaboration and, working alongside each other. It's not a competition.
Yeah. And I think one of the things you touched on is the overlap in people we've funded together. And our game, we talk about seed funding, right? And we say that and you say that, right? In 2021, we were able to award Dr. Elliot Stieglitz $200,000 for a clinical trial grant. Then Cookies funded in 2022, and you funded $150K. Neither of those are enough for a clinical trial, right? So it's not even about overlap. It's about collaboration because it is so expensive, this research. And he is one of the very few people working on JMML. So if our funding got him to the next place and then you took that next step, I mean, this ladder's really long. We're still only a couple rungs up the ladder of what he really needed to eventually get his NIH funding, which was millions of dollars to be able to do the work he's doing.
And saying that, like, that he was able to probably be sitting at dinner one night and saying, like, oh my goodness, I think if we did blah, 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 that this would work. Like, that just blows my mind.
Yes.
Like,
Right.
oh yeah, like I'm eating dinner. I'm like, oh yeah, this can probably like save hundreds and maybe millions of kids that have this diagnosis that nobody is helping. Yay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Fund them.
Yes, fund them now.
Yes,
Yes.
get what they need.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we're all touching on is exactly what we were talking about in our previous conversations, which is just because we're focusing on the same goal doesn't mean we're doing it in the same way. So we're going about it in a different way, engaging different audiences and getting them involved. And then even if we are funding the same researchers, there's not an overlap in funds. There's plenty of things to buy to put this clinical trial out and to have a treatment option for a child. So it's more, how can we work together to be able to make sure if there is a redundancy, we're going to be able to figure that out, and let's get rid of that because we're collaborating. So I just think it's a really great conversation for us to be having, not just in the pediatric cancer world, but like in the context of what we think about nonprofit and what are these missions that we're constantly pushing forward.
And also, like, I think that, the scientists, researchers that are amazing, like being able to say to them, like, do you have a colleague somewhere that's doing this, that like you're doing the front end, they're doing the back end, like how can we pull this together? And we know a couple other nonprofits that have funded you. Maybe we need to have a conversation about like filling that middle gap, because those are the things we do, is we connect people to something that they might already be connected to, but also might not be connected to. So really, like the bigger, broad picture is bringing everybody together to, fill those gaps, because we don't know, I'm not a scientist in any way. And I know my son's disease. I know some of KJ's diagnosis and disease, but I knew a solid tumor before I knew anything about leukemia. And the word leukemia, and I know that this is horrible, but it said a lot like, oh, leukemia, that's the good kind of cancer. But they don't realize when they're saying that people say, oh, that's the good kind, kids survive. Yes, some leukemias are much more hopeful than others, but you throw AML and you look at a Google result of, a 5-year and things like that. And it's totally different. Like, let's bridge that gap. Let's bring everybody together and talk about like, okay, well, this has happened and this has happened. Let's fill that middle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that's something that I think you've probably heard from your researchers. I know we've heard from our researchers too, which is they're trying to pull in all this funding and create something that's fully funded and be able to do this clinical trial. And honestly, they have a lot of ideas, and it's really what gets the funding is what moves forward. So to be able to put resources behind that innovation is amazing. And I love what you said about working with other organizations. We just met with a researcher that we funded this past cycle who was talking about, how CKC funding really fit because they had another foundation and all they will fund is the lab work, like the behind, like that initial, but they won't fund any of, the staff time to be able to deliver the treatment to the children. And that's exactly what we fund. And we were like, can we have the name of that foundation? We need to be working with them.
If we came side by side every time. And imagine the time that frees up for researchers who did not go into this to do grant applications and paperwork, right? Like that is in some ways a necessary evil of what they're doing to accomplish their end goal.
They shouldn't be sitting at a desk filling out grants to be able to fund their much needed research. They need to be in the lab. They need to be at the bedside, and collaborating together with their lab team about like the next level of cures, treatments, hope, time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We have jumped like into the deep end of this conversation, and we all said, oh, well, it's cookies, but it's Cannonball. It's the same. But let's go back just a tiny bit to how Cookies for Kids Cancer got started a little bit, and also how you fundraise. And because it's cookies. It's my favorite thing, but it's a very unique entry point for getting people involved in fundraising and kids cancer. So I think we should go like paddle up to the shallow end so people know what we're talking about.
Yeah. So, our founder, Gretchen, her son, Liam, was diagnosed with stage 4 neuroblastoma. And, the things that she always resonate with me, and the fact that, we didn't know that childhood cancer was the leading disease killer, number one leading disease killer of children in the U.S. That's a eye-opener, and when you're faced with it head on. So one of the researcher oncology doctors came to some parents and said, we have this really hopeful treatment sitting on the shelf in a lab, and we think it's going to really help kids with neuroblastoma. So she had this amazing idea, crazy, amazing, whatever, let's bake 96,000 cookies.
Let's just.
She's like, I knew cookies.
Okay.
She's been in that world of chefs and baking, and and so she gathered up 250 volunteers. One of our teammates, Colleen, who was amazing, their kids went to school together. She said that they sat in a coffee shop and she was like, hey, Colleen, what do you think about baking 96,000 cookies to raise money to fund this research project that's sitting in a lab, whatever? And Colleen was like, yeah. And if you met Colleen, she's amazing. And you put both Gretchen and Colleen together. But really, Gretchen was wasn't thinking about Liam at the time. Liam was in remission.
Mm-hmm.
She, it was about all the other kids that were just like Liam. And they baked 96,000 cookies. They raised $420,000+. She thought it was a one-time thing. And people started to talk about it. And if we do a bake sale, where can we send the money? How can we help? And that's it. That is the power of grassroots.
Right.
Somebody hears of something that's being done that is amazing, and I want to be part of it. I bake. I can host an event. If I can't bake, I'll get my friends to bake, or I'll go to a local bakery, or and that's it. And the funding began and kept going, and I believe it's been 17 years since they have become Cookies for Kids Cancer. And, what was a one-time, one-off, we're going to fund this treatment, that actually became a vaccine that kids are getting protocol-wise for neuroblastoma. Whoever thunk? But, if you were to meet Gretchen, she's amazing. And what she is able to do, and I say that about childhood cancer moms, a very unique people. And I always say, childhood cancer families, they're my people. But when you have lost a child, so I was on the other end of it, Cameron had survived, and I'm like, why did Cameron survive and such didn't? And why did I have to go to that funeral? And, and Liam, relapsed and passed away 7 months before this treatment became available. So, saying that, to be able to go on and 17 years later, be able to be okay, well, we funded more than 60 active treatments that kids are getting today, have been part of that, 130 plus clinical trials, $23 million plus worth of research with cookies and events and bake sales. And really, we're cookies, amazing. I mean, do you really trust a person who doesn't like a cookie?
No.
I mean, I'm not sure. It's a different podcast, but they might be an alien. I'm not sure.
But I always joke about that. But saying that, it's amazing people who think, we're going to do this one time. We're going to have a great impact. And Cookies for Kids Cancer was born. And, every day she honors every child that she has met, every family, by continuing doing, what we do. And we have a small team like you do. There's 10 of us. Some of us are full-time. Some of us are part-time. I've been part-time since last year. My husband's like, that's pretty funny because you're the only part-time person that I know that's really not part-time, but you can say that you are. I love what we do. I believe in what we do. I believe that every time I hear about a clinical trial that's gone from lab to bedside and oh yeah, that child, and they survived, and they reached out to us, and we have a tough cookie program. So they get to pick their own cookie and share who they are, and people can buy their cookie, and they can designate it to their either their type of cancer or whatever. But saying that sharing, that we've been a small part of them being able to be kids is amazing. I mean, I have 3 kids. They all had health problems. I always say one was worse than the next. But, childhood cancer is a totally different beast. And I have 7 grandchildren. I never want to go through that again. I never want our family. But we are just one of thousands of families that have seen childhood cancer more than once. It's not fair. There's no explanation. It's not right. But if we can do it with a cookie to make it better in some way, hey, let's do it.
Yeah.
I just think it's so inspiring to hear the story of, well, I can't cure cancer. I don't know how to do that, but I do know cookies. So let's see if that helps.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we talk about that, I mean, through our Ripple Effect Luncheon, but like a lot of our messaging is about, you don't have to go to med school to help with this problem.
Right. Everyone has a place.
Everyone has a thing that they enjoy doing, and you can include curing cancer in that. If you, for example, bake, you don't have to bake 96,000 cookies, but you could do a bake sale. You could do something that's easy for you, and you can make a difference. And that's so appealing to people because they think everything is so impossible. We all do. Everything feels so impossible.
And I think the other piece is at this point, which is what I love about Cookies for Kids Cancer too, is okay, so how do we continue our innovation in the medicine, but in fundraising? Because now you can go on the website and buy the cookies, right? So if I'm sending a gift to someone, that's the thing I can do, and it has a great charitable component. But also, if I don't bake, I can buy the cookies to sell, right? So I love that you're breaking down each step of the way as an organization and going, where's an easy entry point that fits into people's lives? Because we are all busy. Everything sounds hard. How do we make something good easy? And that, I think, is what y'all have done.
That's and that's what I love as well, because I always say to people, like, if everybody just did the tiniest little bit, just think of the large impact that it has.
Yeah.
So like you go on social media, you don't bake, but you follow us on social media. You invite a couple friends to like our page. Well, a couple of those friends are bakers. They have a group that they bake with and do things. They host a bake sale or they have a holiday party, and they're like, everybody that comes has to bring a box of cookies. We're going to do a cookie swap, but you have to make a donation to my fundraising page. Like, it's just like the little things that I talk to people and they're like, well, I want it to be, and I'm like, no, start small. Like, it's the small, it's the sharing, it's inviting people to know what we're doing and who we are and why we're doing it. I mean, I have crazy passion for this. I don't sleep at night sometimes because like I have such an urgency. It's probably unhealthy to a lot of extent, but on the sad part of that, I've been to way too many kids' funerals. I've seen families say goodbye when they shouldn't have had to say goodbye. And I'm really sick and tired of that.
Yeah.
And no family, the pain stays there forever. It doesn't go away. But, when you have pain like that, you have 2 choices. And it's the move on part of doing better and being passionate about making a difference. And bringing everybody along that you possibly can to join in any way. That's the exciting part.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that sort of leads into what we thought would maybe be one of our final questions for you, which is, you've been doing this for so long and you have been passionate for so long and you have personal connection that helps motivate you. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how you keep that sustainable and how you try to, keep from burning out.
Yeah.
So I heard you say you have gone down to part-time, quote unquote, but
yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the burnout is real. I will sometimes just literally be like, I'm out of office. Like, I just need to walk around a Target and let Target speak to me. And but childhood cancer is not for the faint of heart.
Mhm.
And, you know, no family stands in line to be part of childhood cancer. The people that stand alongside us that have no personal connection to childhood cancer, I'm in all of them. I'm amazed by them, that they choose to fight alongside of what we're doing because we couldn't do it alone, and we shouldn't have to do it alone. But saying that, when I feel the burnout, I really do try to step back. Like, it's really a self-care thing because, it happens a lot. If I go to speak at an event and I'm sharing my most personal, Cameron, if he were to he's 27 now. If he were to say to me, I've really been feeling sick to my stomach, and, I would feel panic because, 26 years later, what are the long-term side effects?
Right.
He had his max toxicity. He had an 80% liver resection. I mean, those are real, things that they don't know, And then, I have this thought of KJ, and, I remember after he passed away, I mean, it's almost a year. On the 18th of May, it'll be a year, and, um, as a non-biological grandparent, the pain that my insides felt, so, like, I knew that, like, everybody else that was connected with him, uh, their pain was so real as well, and, I really rethought, "Is this what I should be doing? Should I walk away?" And I remember thinking, I left the country for like a month to like recoup and be with my husband's family in Scotland, and visiting, my nieces and going to the Highlands and just taking in Eat, Pray, Love.
Right.
And I remember being asleep, and it was almost like KJ was really there, and he's like, "Hey, Nana, you can't stop because the other kids need you." And I pictured him being so proud of the cookies that we used to bring to CHOP and bring to his oncologist, who is another connection with us, Dr. Tejan, and to that team. And he's like, "I have cookies for you." And thinking how simple, but how much that meant to him to be part of something so much bigger. And he will forever impact me. And I will forever be grateful that I was not a gift to him. He was a gift to me. And I want to do better. And I don't want to burn out. And I know that it happens. And I mean, I can say no. And I can say, I need to step away. And I did step away. And I came back, and I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to do this. And this was my passion. But I needed to do it in a different way. And when I speak about Cameron, when I speak about KJ, when I share my most vulnerable part of my life, of the good and the bad, sometimes I have to be like, yeah, I'm done for the day.
Right,
Like,
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah, I think it's so powerful for anyone to hear that we can find balance. But what I think is so inspiring is that you're having to re-find balance, right? That like your story as a cancer family has evolved in the last couple of years in a horrific way, and is hard. And at the same time, being able to just take that time to go, okay, then what does this look like is, I think, a message for us all, for especially if you feel like, well, no, I've been doing this and this is exactly why we do this. But to be able to take some time is really, really powerful. I really appreciate you even just like talking about that for anyone who's listening and feeling like I have to keep going. Okay, but it doesn't have to be how you were keeping going before.
It's not the look back, because the look back, even though there's beautiful things in the look back, it's the move forward about all the beauty that's ahead, and all the impact and all the amazing things of just being at an event and having somebody who's an adult childhood cancer survivor come up to you and say, "Oh, I'm 65 and I was like one of the first childhood cancer survivors for X, Y, and Z cancer, that there was only 300 diagnosed in the world at the time. But I live and I have a family, and it's for them that we continue because we are doing so much better now at what was before and what's now. Even Cameron's diagnosis, same protocol, hepatoblastoma, 1 in a million kids, it's, where is the change? Well, the change is only going to happen if we keep doing it.
Yeah.
I'm going to choose to do it with a cookie.
Yeah.
And like, if anybody that knows me, my bag usually has a cookie jar in it. So everybody wants to be my friend.
And so for anyone else who wants to do it with a cookie, where do they go?
Yeah. So you can go to our website. We have so many campaigns all year long. But if you live in Florida, then you can reach out to me directly.
Okay.
And we have a large campaign that's coming up in September. That has turned from a citywide bake sale to a Florida-wide bake sale. Wow. Because there's so many businesses that have so many connections all through Florida that are interested in being involved. But individual schools, service hours, everybody just does a little bit. And, that person that's like really struggling that walks in, that's a childhood cancer family, and they're like, oh my gosh, Cookies for Kids Cancer, like they fund childhood cancer research. We're a childhood cancer family. Like they're instantly seen.
Yes.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's a beautiful moment for sure. Well, the reason you exist, the reason we exist is to invest in innovative research. It makes treatment, it makes life easier for kids and their families that are facing a cancer diagnosis. So for our listeners, for our viewers out there, if you want to support the research that makes the difference, you can go to our website, cannonballkidscancer.org, or you can go to Be a Good Cookie, right?
Yeah,
cookiesforkidscancer.org. Check us out, see what we're doing. There are so many ways to get involved.
That's right. And thank you for listening to Game Over Cancer. Did you know that leaving a review will help us reach more listeners, and that helps us educate for change? So please do that, and also share our podcast.
Thank you for tuning in. It's a hard topic. We know it's hard to take time to listen to this. And when you invest in it, you are part of our change and part of our fight. So thank you so much. I'm Dana Nichols.
I'm Val Solomon.
This is Beth. And until next time, CK,
see you later. Join us as we transform fear into courage and turn adversity into opportunities for change.
If you want to be involved in the conversations that create change in the world of pediatric cancer, take a moment, share, like, and subscribe.